When thinking about the timeline for settling your case, I think a great place to start is really your medical treatment. You're not ready to negotiate your claim until you know how much medical treatment you're going to need. Like there's cases I have where somebody goes to the ER or maybe an urgent care right after a wreck. They're sore a couple of weeks, they're fine. Okay, that case is going to take a couple months to settle. We order the medical records, we get the bills in, we negotiate the claim, you move along. Other cases, you're in a wreck, you go to the ER, you follow up with your primary care doctor, you have to go to pain management. Man, you keep treating, you just don't get better, and you look up at 6 months and you're still treating. If you're still in pain and treating with a doctor after 6 months, your case isn't ready to settle yet. We've got to know if the doctors can get you back to where you were before the wreck. And if they can't, we need to be able to put together a life care plan for you so we can see every Tylenol and Advil you're going to take the rest of your life, much less injections or surgeries that you're going to have as a result of the wreck. You're not ready to start negotiating your claim unless and until we know the full picture of the medical treatment you're going to need as a result of the wreck. The second thing that affects the timeline of negotiating your claim is this, what I call the investigation game. You know, a lot of these insurance companies, they just want to say, well, we have to investigate how the wreck happened. We got to talk to all these witnesses. Now, the reality is a DPS trooper, a police officer went out and investigated the wreck moments after it happened, and they found the at-fault driver to be at fault. But these insurance companies are not satisfied by that. They say, well, our client says, or, we have this witness who they ain't going to tell us who it is, but they say this. And as my granddaddy used to say, I heard and they said are the two biggest liars in Texas. And these insurance companies will say, I heard my insured say, ... but that person's just trying to cover his tail and not be held responsible for the wreck. So what happens? Well, that means I have to put my team to work. I had a case a few years ago, and if you're from Tyler, you'll know right where this is. There was a wreck. I worked south of Loop 49. It was on Broadway, and my client was headed north, and there's this 18-wheeler driver headed from Gresham to Broadway. Okay, so there's this FM road that connects Gresham, this four-way stop over there, to Broadway. This guy blows through the stop sign, crosses the southbound traffic, and hits my client going northbound, blows him up. The at-fault driver, the 18-wheeler driver, gets out of the car, gets out of the cab of his tractor and says, I don't know what happened. Brakes went out, something, of some mysterious thing. Now, DPS works the wreck. Tyler PD's out there. They say 18-wheeler driver's at fault. My client says, hey, I'm just driving north on Broadway. I didn't do anything wrong. 18-wheeler driver's at fault. 18-wheeler driver, and therefore his employer, doing everything they can to avoid responsibility. And so they say, oh, we have to investigate. There may have been some unforeseeable mechanical failure or some such. Hogwash. So here's what I have to do. Hired an expert, hired an engineer, and I go meet him out in Fort Worth at the yard where this 18-wheeler was kept, and we do testing on the brakes and download the black box data. My engineer comes out to the scene of the wreck, takes measurements of the yaw marks, which is the skid marks that show what happened when the wreck occurred, looks at the debris field, looks at all the pictures, talks to my client, looks at the crash report, looks at the body cam footage from where the police worked the wreck. And my engineer writes a report and says, you know what? The investigation the police did right after the wreck that said the guy ran the stop sign and hit your... Of course, that's what happened. The insurance company knew that's what happened. They knew full well that's what happened. But they wanted to put us to the test to see if we would do the work to investigate the claim. So if you've got a case and the insurance company, especially if it's a bigger case, the insurance company might say, oh, we need to investigate. We've got to do all this investigation. They don't really. That's something they say to put you off. Okay, here's the clock they run on. It's serve and volley. We send something, we wait to get something back. We send something and we wait to get something back. And a lot of times, who knows if this is really true, but the cynic in me says it is. A lot of times, we kind of have the best rules an insurance company could write to benefit themselves. So here's what happens. We send a demand to the insurance company, says, my client's injured, here's his medical bills, he's entitled to $100,000, $1 million, whatever. We get a letter back from the insurance company. The law says we have 15 business days to respond, and we're going to use them all. Now, after those 15 days, do you think I get their best offer? No, sir. I get an offer, or see what I said earlier about investigation, a statement they need to investigate the claim, and so they make an offer. And then we send another demand. He said, well, we got another 15 business days. Delay, delay, delay. There is a clock. We can't do anything to quicken the clock, but we have to know that's a tactic that they're going to use. Insurance companies do fast offers because they don't want to pay full value. So I had a case, I just settled it. I worked it earlier this year. It was actually a drunk driving case. And thankfully, my client really wasn't hurt that bad. He went to the ER the night of the wreck and did some chiropractic treatment, but he wasn't the type to milk it. Good East Texas guy, and I don't want to dime more than I'm entitled to. And he wasn't going to go to the doctor just to go to the doctor. He wanted to get better, and when he got better, he stopped going. So my client hires me. Now, he was in that car with 2 other people. This really happened. The 2 other people had been offered, and they took $1,500 apiece. They all went to the ER too. But this guy said, man, I feel like they're getting away with something on this drunk driving case, paying these 2 $1,500 apiece. So he hires me. Now, I couldn't settle this case for him that day. If you want to get a case settled super quick, you can do that, and you don't have to wait for their deadlines to do it. If you want to undersettle a case, they'll write you a quick check for not a lot of money, and they will eliminate that loss. They'll do it every single time. But this guy was wise, and he was a little patient. He said, Shane, I want to get better. And he did. He went to the chiropractor and got to feeling better. And he didn't overtreat, didn't go to the doctor any more than he needed to get better. When we got those records in and got his medical records in and his bills in, sent a demand to the insurance company, and we got the policy limits of $50,000. Now, how did we do that? Well, we showed that we had the ability to say no to a quick offer for not a lot of money. And we showed that we had the ability to pursue the claim in a way to put maximum pressure on the insurance companies. Never take a fast offer when you can wait for full value. The 5th thing that can affect the timeline of resolving your claim, filing a lawsuit. Here's what we do at my office. We send a demand to the insurance company, and if they respond with an offer of less than your medical bills, which I'm telling you happens a ton, when they do that, my response to that offer is we're going to file a lawsuit. We're just going to sue you. I'm not going to do a counter offer or counter demand. I'm just going to sue your client, and you can step in and have to pay a lawyer $10,000, $20,000 to defend him because you wanted to underestimate us or underestimate my client. We're not going to do it. So settlement talks fall apart often because insurance companies try to undersettle claims. And when they do that, they do it because they know people don't want to wait. We live in a world where it's an instant gratification society, and most people don't play the long game. Well, you need to be in the business and life in general, and definitely when making claims to insurance companies, of playing the long game. They know that so many people will take the quick check that they just kind of universally offer the lowball quick offer. And I'm telling you, they wouldn't do it if a lot of people didn't take it, okay? They know what they're doing. They've got the data on it. So we've just established a reputation to where we're not going to do that. And you need to be known as somebody who's not going to do that. So what the insurance company is going to do, if you're talking to them and trying to negotiate with them, they're going to start off by offering you less than your medical bills 90% of the time, okay? And when they get to over your medical bills in a negotiation, they're going to try to make you think that's such a display of beneficence on their part that you need to go ahead and take it and move along your merry way. And I'm telling you, don't do it. Sometimes you have to file a lawsuit. But when you do, it's going to set these whole new timelines that's going to dictate the serve and volley of sending discovery requests, taking depositions, getting a trial date a year out. There's timelines associated with filing a lawsuit, but that is necessary if you want to maximize the value of your claim. The 6th thing that can affect the timeline of settling your claim is what I'll call special situations. Kids, minors being involved, big injuries, and just kind of unique things that may happen that are unique to a particular case. So let's take kids, for instance. A minor can't contract legally. So if you have an 8-year-old, 2-year-old, 10-year-old, whatever, that person, if he or she is injured in a car wreck, the insurance company is going to require a judge to approve the settlement if it's over a certain amount of money. I mean, sometimes if the claim is worth $1,500 or $2,500, they'll bypass that. But if you get a $100,000 claim on the part of an 8-year-old, that has to be blessed by a judge. We file what's called a friendly suit. So it's technically a lawsuit that's filed, but it's a lawsuit where everybody's just kind of setting it up to get it in front of the judge so the judge can hear what happened, hear the facts of the case, get an understanding of the settlement that's being proposed, and approve it or not approve it. That can, take an additional 3, 4, 5, 6 months. There's also times where you have big injuries, catastrophic or near catastrophic injuries. And even something that's very serious but very common in my business, such as a back surgery. If you have to have surgical intervention as a result of a car wreck, hey, unless they just have very low insurance, that claim probably needs to take a long time to settle because you need to build up the value of the claim. You really need to make sure you know how much insurance is out there. And in Texas, they don't have to tell you how much insurance they have if you don't file a lawsuit, unless they're just saying, hey, here's all of our insurance. We see how injured you are, and we're going to offer you all of our policy limits. We have 100,000 or a million or whatever, and here's the piece of paper that shows that's what we have. If they're not doing that before a lawsuit, they don't have to tell you. And so if we want to know how much insurance somebody has on a case that involves back surgery, on a case with a near catastrophic injury or catastrophic injury, hey, you got to pony up. We got to sue them. And then they're going to have to show us how much insurance they have. And then we've got to take depositions, hire experts, and do all the things we have to do to build the value of the case to maximize the amount of money that goes into your pocket. What can you do to speed things up? Is there anything you can do to speed things up? Yes, there are things you can do to speed things up. Here's what it is. If you're hurting, go to the doctor. I have a case. I actually talked to this person last week, signed her up last week, and she was in a wreck a couple of months ago and went to the ER right after the wreck and thought she would get better. Okay. But it turns out she's not in her 20s anymore and she's not made out of rubber like kids are. And so she didn't get better right away. And so now she's got to go into treatment so that she can get physical therapy or chiropractic care so she can get back to where she was before the wreck. That 2-month gap in treatment between wreck and additional treatment, that in every case, and I'm telling you every case, to an insurance adjuster sitting in some cubicle somewhere is going to raise suspicion. And they're going to say, oh, I don't feel like that's really related. They waited too long to go to the doctor. They're just going to needle everything about those medical records and just try to pick it apart. Okay. And so what you thought you were doing to be nice, I'm not going to go to the doctor if I don't need to, turns out to have been the worst possible thing for your case because since you weren't treating initially, it took you longer to get better and it caused suspicion on the part of the insurance company and it's going to delay when they're going to settle your claim. Okay, so the bottom line, how long is your case going to take to settle? Well, it depends on how bad your injuries are. It depends on how much insurance the other driver has. It depends on, is it a minor involved or an adult? Are there gaps in treatment? Is there a surgery involved? Do we have to do an investigation, hire experts to prove up how the wreck really happened when the insurance company doesn't do the right thing and just admit fault on the part of their insured? All of those things go into how long it's going to take for your case to settle. Every case is unique, but the typical settlement range for a minor injury is a few months. The typical settlement range for a major injury or one involving a surgery is going to be years. We've walked through what really drives the timeline for accident claims here in Texas, from medical treatment to investigation to negotiation to sometimes taking it all the way to trial. The most important thing for you to remember is this: faster isn't always better if it means leaving money on the table or getting stuck with unpaid bills down the road. If you want to get the compensation you deserve, patience plus the right legal help are your best friends. Hey, you made it to the end. Great job. If you found this video helpful, you need to watch my next video, 5 Things You Must Not Do After a Motorcycle Accident. Trust me, the secrets I share in that video can make or break your case and protect you from making the most costly mistakes after a motorcycle wreck. I'm here to help you every step of the way. See you over there.